So it's great to speak today with Bill Christy, CEO at Clash. Bill, how are you doing?
Very well. Thanks, Gary, for having us on.
Well, thank you for your time. It's great, and it'd be really good today to hear all about Clash. When we'll talk about the name, talk about how the event brand came about. So maybe if you could kind of start with that would be great.
Sure. Clash is kind of interesting. We looked at a bunch of different names as you're talking about rebranding, and you go through that whole process, and the marketing people get all excited. And at the end of the day, Clash had just one meaning. And if you look at the dictionary meaning, it is, in essence, the clash is the fight between mind over body, mind over matter, right? So it's that inner turmoil which created the name Clash for us. And we see that from our absolute roots. And being an endurance company, being a triathlon company at first, we said, okay, look, if we're battling daily and we're fighting with ourselves to say there are no rules, right? Let's do this as if this was a clean sheet of paper. Let's follow our hearts. What is that? Well, it's a battle, and it's a battle within ourselves, and it's a battle as we're all athletes, and we're out there saying, no, I can't get this done. And yeah, you can get it done. So that's really the story about where the name Clash came from.
So are you a fan of the 70s punk band as well? Is there a kind of nod to that? 70s and 80s, obviously.
Remember, I'm not a kid. So yeah, pretty fair. Yeah, I am. Just fantastic. There's a little bit of a you could also cross borders past the punk band and say there's also a little bit of history with Clash and NASCAR. So that also gave us one more. So I'm hoping that with my two versus your one, right, reference to the band, my two of Webster's Dictionary and your and NASCAR and you're one of the band, hopefully I win.
Yeah.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. Well, I'm going to keep the band theme going then. So obviously one of the Clash songs was "Should I Stay or Should I Go?" And so I suppose this links to the next question: is why did you guys split with Challenge Family? Did you have that sort of "Should I Stay or Should I Go" moment? I'm guessing you did, because looking at obviously what you achieved with Daytona in particular, I think it maybe caught quite a few people by surprise that you guys did separate and obviously are no longer part of Challenge Family.
Yeah, so I think a couple things that we probably should clear up. The first is that Challenge Daytona and the PTO Championship, the PTO was very gracious to come in and support us with a purse. That was our race. That was not a Challenge Family race. That was a Challenge North America race, which was our management team. NASCAR Productions, with our guidance, put that show on. So front to back, that was us. We are not in any way, shape, or form related to Rev. I know there was a history going back 10 years. We were still being caught up in that. Miami was a total Challenge North America, now Clash USA event, same management team. We brought in NASCAR Productions. I sat in the production booth. Made comments like, "Hey, Lucy came off her bike. How many angles did we get that on?" Hoping that was going to make ESPN that night because it was such a phenomenal multiple camera angle. But we chose to become Clash for one reason and one reason only, and that is we sat around and we're a track-centric model, but for our middle distance athletes, we do leave the track. And as we looked at all of our venues, it was pretty interesting because Philip LaHaye, who's well known in the industry and just a spectacular guy, who's now our Executive Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, Philip and Andre Lepar, again, ran all Latin America for our friends in Tampa before coming with us. They sat down and we were on the couch one day and said, I said, "Well, what about this venue?" And they said, "Yeah, we don't think we can make a swim bike run work there." And Philip said, "But I'm just going to point this out." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Bill," he said, "are you aware that the Fox mountain bike corporate course is adjacent property to the Atlanta the Atlanta Motor Speedway, the Road America version, if you will, Road Atlanta version of the NASCAR series. And I said, what? He said, yeah, right at Michelin Road Atlanta. He said, there is 3 8-mile trails, basically a blue-green and then a black trail for mountain bikers. He said, and the trail running there is spectacular. He said, there's so much more. He said, we've got venues that have swim, bike, run that's phenomenal. He said, but we've got all these other venues that we can have middle of the night, long distance relay running. We can have trail running. We can have gravel bike riding. He said, we can have all these great endurance sports. Why are we limiting ourselves? And Andre Lepar said, we need to be an endurance company. We need to not be a triathlon company. We need to have triathlon. It's going to always be our core. People love our events. We need to continue to produce that quality of event, but in other areas. And I said, okay, if this makes us an endurance company, then our ideology, while still being customer service based, being about the age group athlete, providing an experience, right? We're all about the experience. We want you to walk away having said, wow, that was the coolest experience I've ever had, from a festival environment with a band and beer gardens and wine gardens and all of those things throughout the weekend, regardless of whether or not it's a 7-event gravel relay, team relay run, run, bike, run, mountain biking experience, or a swim, bike, run experience. So that's really what we were trying to do. And
yeah. So in terms of the way that you guys, obviously, you, as you say, you have this multifaceted endurance, broader remit. So I get a sense, obviously, from the release that came out, that actually it seemed to be quite an amicable parting. So I don't want to read between the lines, but I sense that, yeah, there's no animosity there.
No. In fact, I mean, I tell people routinely that Zibi Slivchek is a brother from another mother. Just magnificent people. And when he and I talk about it, he very clearly understood what we were trying to do and recognized that this was going to be a parting of ways to some respect. We've always had different ownership. We've always been 2 different companies. But what we did agree on is, from a triathlon perspective, we, as you know, want to put on the best quality event we can. We want the pros to be televised. We want our age group athletes to have a world stage to aspire to race on. And for that reason, we will continue to contribute to the Challenge Family professional points bonus system. And we will utilize their world championship. The championship is our world stage for our athletes. So we'll have a roll down on every age group to give everybody a world stage championship. It's our way of staying connected. We will share advertising opportunities when they present themselves. And really, it's the rising tide raises all ships. And we want this business to be healthy. We just saw an opportunity through our track-centric model to do more than just swim, bike, run. And when you're going out of a track for 50 miles after you've gone around the track a couple of times, the roads surrounding our facilities are all brand new, and we can protect the cyclists, where that doesn't happen every day, right? But in our events, we get to shut down roads because we typically, the NASCAR folks typically own a lot of the property adjacent to the venue. So it just made all the sense in the world, and they're great people. We will continue to support them and everything that they do to the best of our ability.
Great. It's good to hear. So you alluded to Watkins Glen earlier. So you have the Daytona, the Miami races, and also 2 events for 2022. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Watkins Glen in New York State, and also Atlanta.
Road Atlanta.
And so you again, you mentioned gravel. You're talking trail running. So there's a broad remit. So how many days do you envisage a clash event to run for in 2022?
Gary, so fun you asked that question. Weekends, it's tough to get 11 events in Daytona in a weekend. And in fact, the kids triathlon is so important to us. We shuffled the entire weekend for Daytona this year to make sure we got the kids triathlon in. And that was a promise that I made to Rocky Harris about continually supporting that effort. But as you look at it, and as we continue to add events, it's pretty tough to put 11 events on in 2.5 days. So is there a time we're going to say, is it a Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing? I think that's not too far away as we continue to offer and expand our offerings through a specific venue. As of today, that's not the case. But is this going to turn into something bigger? We are. In fact, we've got 2 pros coming in to offer a clinic on Thursday and Friday at Daytona this year on transitions. Mm-hmm. So you can actually come to a free clinic put on by a couple of great pros to talk about how do you transition, what should you do, what do you do today that you could fine tune. So we're going to start adding clinics, and we're hoping that the pros will bring their teams in to offer clinics for their folks as well. I mean, I referenced Ben Hoffman before and how big a following he had this year at Daytona. Some other folks did. Wouldn't it have been great for them to have an opportunity? So will it expand in days? I don't see how it doesn't, but we don't have it planned for that today. I think I'll probably stay out of trouble with the team if I say it that way.
Always be careful what you say on camera.
Careful what you say.
Absolutely. So in terms of the next question then, and obviously you've referenced some individuals who are on your team. And it does look like, if you look at your website, there are a number of, you've got a fairly large team for currently 2 events, obviously expanding to 4. And I get a sense maybe more than 4, but we'll come to that in a moment. But with this fair sized team of people and also some big prize purses. So am I right? Is it $100,000 for Daytona and $50,000 for Miami? So it's a pretty serious investment in your business. With that in mind, do you have any worries about hitting the numbers that you might have on your business plan, this year and maybe next year and beyond? Any concerns, any butterflies on that, or you're fairly confident?
No, this has always been a business of passion of the heart. Remember that I started in this because I'm a poor triathlete, as we all know. I say that all the time. But right, thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one. But I started this journey because I was tired of getting to a venue, putting my bike on a rack, going home and chilling out, going to some type of a hotel, chilling out, getting up the next morning, racing, and it was over. That was it. I remember being frustrated a couple of different venues, not being able to get a good hotel. And I'm not a hotel snob, but it'd be nice to be on property and be able to rinse off or get a shower. If I wanted friends who are behind me, believe it or not, who hadn't crossed the line, it'd be nice to get a hot shower and a good meal without having to leave property. And that didn't exist to my experience. And I thought, we can do a better job of this. So understanding that that's where this whole project came from, I think it probably adds some color to why, the economic piece is always important. But I'm fortunate enough, and our investor base is fortunate enough that we're not controlled by Wall Street money. We're controlled by passion as athletes. And it'll continue that way because we believe we're building something fantastic. And yeah. Let's be fair. If we get to a point in time where we need to do that, I'm fortunate enough to have had a background in my previous life as a medical device CEO to have raised a couple of bucks over the years institutionally. So I'm not overly concerned about that because I think our business model is pretty sound. we're never going to forget the age group athletes and their registrations are sponsors. That is the core of this business. The question has always become, how do we take something that we all know that we love and entertain our family, because our family doesn't want to come wait around while we're out on a bike or out on a run. So how do we entertain them? And that's sort of how this progressed. And the TV outgrowth and the success on TV that we've had, clearly there's more than, there's more than 200,000 to 300,000 registered triathletes in the United States. And when you saw the 690,000 sustained viewers on NBC for Daytona and, 1.4 million people in and out of the show, it tells you there's more people watching than triathletes.
Definitely.
And similar to Miami, right? Same thing we saw in Miami. And we're hoping that by expanding this offering to endurance, now we've got cyclists in the game, we've got mountain bikers in the game, we've got runners in the game. I personally am looking forward to a middle of the night relay race at Road Atlanta. So,
So you kind of, I'm guessing that we've got a parallel event like Wildflower, and obviously Wildflower sort of had some challenges due to a variety of issues like drought and so on. But there definitely was that festival vibe to Wildflower. Is that something you're looking to not copy or anything, but to emulate and to build upon, perhaps?
Our friend Bob Babbitt uses that reference all the time, Wildflower. And remember, I've not been around that long. So I've had people explain that experience to me. And when I heard of it, I just thought, wow, this is spectacular. I'd like to tell you I was that forward thinking. Our thinking is pretty simply, let's take what NASCAR does so well at creating a festival of events during a weekend, and something's always going on. There's 4 weeks here that it is nonstop racing, be it motorcycles or, cars or go-karts or whatever it may be. But it is people and campers, and it's, good food trucks, and it's fantastic entertainment going on for all the family members. And that was really the thinking. When I hear about Wildflower and its history, it endears my heart, because it says maybe we are on the right path. And thus far, the concept's proven out. We just have to show people that we're going to do it more than a couple of times.
Definitely. We'll link with that then. How do you sort of see the future for triathlon in the United States over the coming years? Because it's pretty clear that the pandemic has really hurt a lot of people. We've seen a fair number of event companies come and go. Ironman certainly had a tough time during the pandemic, but it does, I think, remain a dominant force. Obviously we've seen Challenge Family sort of enter the market a couple of times. Other event brands obviously are available, but it does seem to me that the Ironman very much has a very, very strong hold on the US market. How do you see things playing out in general for triathlon? And I suppose linked to that, how do you see Clash sort of fitting into that evolving marketplace?
Rocky Harris was probably a great inspiration for this part of the conversation, because he said, Bill, let's be fair, swimming scares the heck out of everyone. And we do a couple of things differently. We have, since day one, have done a rolling time trial start. And my premise has always been, I'd rather you fight for your best time as opposed to fight for a position in the water, right? I don't believe in a slugfest. So I think that's the first component that says, okay, what are athletes looking for? And Rocky said, run, bike, run is a phenomenal thing, duathlon, and we've not done a great job. We've not done a great job getting that out to the community of endurance. So that's sort of phase 2 of triathlon, and maybe shrinking numbers. I believe, and there are a lot of people a lot smarter than I that believe the same thing. And that is, if you can get them engaged through an event festival weekend where they say, okay, if I don't have to swim around all those people, maybe that's something I would like to do. Or I can be a part of this festival and bike run, or I can swim and bike. And that's a great way to get engaged. So hopefully it's our intent to cross endurances so that people do have exposure. I mean, there's many pros that are phenomenal gravel and mountain bikers. And we're going to incorporate some of that into our other venues. We're going to take what the venue has to offer and build the best festival around it. We're not going to take a square peg and try and jam it into a round hole. So that's sort of the first part of your question. The second part of your question is, where does Clash fit in from a festival standpoint with regard to our friends in Tampa? And let's be fair, our friends in Tampa built this business, right? All due respect. I have to say that. And we see ourselves as being those people who are going to put on an event that if it's your first time crossing the line for a sprint or your 30th middle distance race and you've never been to a world championship or you've been to several world championships, the finish line and the race experience looks, feels, or is better than overall the experience you got at a world championship. Now that's tough because if you're going to come to us for your first short course sprint experience, then what do, right? I hope you're coming to one of our other races. So we sort of see ourselves in the triathlon world as being, that brand that has a different product offering. We want to give you a very competitive environment with a very competitive field of age groupers around you as an age grouper that you're going to have to push hard. Daytona, we know, is arguably one of the fastest courses in the world. There's going to be more information that comes out about something else we're doing relatively shortly that, no, I can't tell you about. I wish I could. And I know you're going to ask. I'm just going to say, Gary, no. But as you look at that and you look at Watkins Glen and its venue and what it has to offer and what we're going to roll out there, we think that we're that company that says, I can take my family, I can have a great trication. My bride or my husband is not going to be mad at me because they sat around and did nothing for the weekend. And my whole family has something to do. And I get to race in a very competitive environment. So we think that's where we fit in.
Right.
And I think if you've come to one of our events so far, you would understand that concept.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Absolutely fair. And thank you very much. This has been, we could probably talk for another hour, but I think this has been really, really insightful and really interesting. I wish you obviously all the very best going forwards. And thanks very much for your time. It's been great speaking with you. Absolutely good time. Thank you. And if anybody has any questions, please get them to us. We're all about listening and trying to figure out how to get better. So appreciate your time. Thanks again. Cheers. Cheers. Thanks, Bill. Bye-bye.